Spiritual Center of Pflugerville. Thank you. Am I on?
You're on now.
You're on. Our topic this morning is very interesting. It came from a quote. I do spend a lot of time online. I do a lot of research. And I was on a site by they're a motivational group. And they came up with a quote that I love. You have the power over your thoughts, not over events. Okay, now that, believe it or not, you ready? This was a quote done by Marcus Aurelius back in 161 AD. Okay, who was the last good emperor is known historically of Rome. And it's really been fascinating me looking at me, because that's what we teach. You know, as your man thinketh, so you become, or as a human thinketh. So, and I've been really pondering that whole idea. Now, what's interesting about this, let me share with you. Usually I have my, the article that I do for the newsletter, that goes out on Friday night. The deadline is 7 o'clock p.m., okay? And Madeline frets until I get it done. And this way it wouldn't come. It would not come. Friday night, we were over at the Raspas, and I still hadn't done my newsletter. Okay? And then I got home, and I was thinking about this the whole time, and all of a sudden it all came together. Okay? So it was 10, 11 o'clock when I finally finished the newsletter. And thankful to Madeline, she got up early and had it out Saturday morning. So I apologize. But that was me thinking. Now, the problem is, I was thinking, not letting go and letting God. Everybody got it? Mm-hmm. So that's when it says you have the power over your thoughts. So we can literally change what we think. But the human brain or the ego mind has told us that we can't control the mind. We call it the monkey mind, all that kind of stuff. But you do not have power over events. Now, I remember the inelegant bumper stickers you used to see, where things happen or stuff happens. Okay? You picked it up.
That's an S word, but it doesn't stand for something.
Well, thank you, Randy.
But events occur. Everything occurs. In other words, we live like we are human beings in a material body. Now, we are spiritual beings in a human body, but the human body has taken over and is running us rather than the spiritual self. And that's why we're here. That's why we're on a spiritual path. And that's what most religions in the past have taught, to return. As a matter of fact, the great parable of Jesus, of the parable son returning to the Father, is the parable, the story about returning to the Father's house or returning to the Mother's house. Now, you do need to know that there's a trend now. As a matter of fact, one of the books I'm working on, Choose Only Love, has said we need to redefine father as mother. Because God is dualistic. God is, whether I don't want to use those fancy words, but the idea is that in today's world, mother is more appropriate for a conversation about God. Back then, father was a patriarchal society, and anytime you wanted something, you went to the father. And the father would agree to it or not agree to do it. But when the father agreed to do it in the family, then he was expected to give you the resources to do it. Everybody get it? Yeah. So it was used as a metaphor to explain to people 2,000 years ago what it was like to be totally reliant on the spirit we call father. So in today's world, the nurturing idea is more appropriate, I believe. So you're going to hear me more and more refer to mother. Okay? So everybody take a deep breath. You can handle it.
Oh, it's appropriate.
Yeah, it's very interesting what's happening. It really is. And it's a much more appropriate model for what we're looking for. Okay? Now, your reaction to the events that occur and the circumstances that occur from it is what then controls your life. Think about that. Okay? Now, what do you do? One of the things I used to do very well, and still do occasionally when I lose control, something happens, I go, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh! And then we fret, worry, can't sleep at night, da, 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 da. And we allow the monkey brain to take over and continue the process. Anybody familiar with the what if this happens?
Oh, yeah.
And so we do if this, if that, if that. So that's what we're talking about now is, and Marcus Aurelius, Roman Emperor, years, what, 2,000 years ago, 2,200 years ago, this is a conversation he was talking about, okay? Now, let me, gotta go to scripture, and those of you, myself, confessed from me that I had a hard time with Paul over the years, and I'm now appreciating Apostle Paul. Because in a lot of places he's considered a solid, but that was part of mine. But 1 Corinthians 2:12. Now we have received not the spirit of the world. So the spirit of the world is what we've been trained to do, what we've grown up in. It's known as the ego mind. It's the conditioning that we have experienced on the rules and regulations of how we should live life. Okay? But the spirit that is from God. So within us is the spirit from God. And we go back to Genesis when God created us in his image. And do we take that lightly or do we take that seriously? So, and then it goes on and says that we may understand the gifts that are given to us by God. Okay? So we have gifts. And how the key to it is we're living in a world that doesn't appreciate our gifts. And so what gifts do we have? And stop and think about what gifts we have been given and what are the promises. Jesus clearly says, don't worry. I go to the 11th commandments, sweatest thou not. Okay? And so we have all these things that Jesus said, but we really kind of gloss over it lightly. Okay? So the idea, and there's a little bit more here, but the Spirit, that we may understand the gifts that are given to us by God. For the things which we discuss are not dependent on the knowledge and words of man's wisdom. I'm going to say that again. For the things which we discuss are not dependent on the knowledge and words of man's wisdom. Now, is anybody familiar with the word learning? Mm-hmm. We are driven to learn, folks. Okay, few of you have degree after degree after degree in here. Yes? And we're driven to go to school. The next book I'm going to find is the answer. The next class I go to might be the answer I can have a breakthrough. Or if I go get this degree or this certificate, I can do this. So we're driven to learn, and the ego keeps us learning because it doesn't really want us to go into the full knowledge of who we are. So that's a hard understanding. But the key to it is you're a child of God. And as a child of God, you have gifts, and those gifts can help you live a peaceful, happy life in a spiritual sense. Okay? So it goes on. So we discussed not depending on the wisdom of words of man's wisdom, but on the teaching of the Spirit, thus explaining spiritual things to the spiritual minded. So it says earlier, don't throw your pearls before swine. And that's, again, a metaphor, an idea that swine, pigs, will eat pearls because they like the calcium in it. Anybody agree pearls are expensive? So anything of value in a spiritual way, people don't understand it. So there's no sense in trying to shovel it into their face. So evangelizing is ridiculously, there's no sense in it. The only thing we can do is develop ourselves as spiritual beings. So it's our job to be models on the world out there and to help our lives become that example of a spirit-led life. Okay? Now, we're still dealing with struggles. Anybody agree with that? Mm-hmm. The Buddha realized he lived a privileged life, and he was from a king, and he lived in a compound and didn't see any travail and problems. And then he went outside and he saw people struggling and suffering. And he then decided to give everything up and go figure out how to teach people or how to learn not to suffer. And he spent, I think, 26, 27 years looking for the answer. And then he sat down and meditated. You know, I'm getting the whole story, but Bodhi tree. And he realized he had to give it up. In other words, if I worry about suffering, what do I create more of? According to the law of attraction. Suffering. So when we go into freak out, I hope everybody understands the word freak out, but when we go into that, what we're doing is creating what we don't want. So it's the irony is the teachings of Jesus really help us support spiritual life. And in the teachings of Jesus, he says very clearly, love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay, now, is there any equivocation in there? Love only ones that are black skin or white skin? Yes? No?
No.
It says, love thy neighbor. That's everybody. Now, that next door neighbor that you don't like, does that mean him? Her? Yes. So, the key to this whole thing is, every event that occurs for a reason in my life. And I might not see the reason, but the reason is only good. So, as a child of God, if I, according to Marcus Aurelius, I can't change my thoughts, but I can change the events.
Wait a minute.
The other way around. You see what the ego mind does? I can't change the events, but I can change my thoughts. So if I don't want the same event to occur again, what must I change? My thoughts about the event. Can I change the event? No. We're right back to stuff happens, okay? Now, everybody in this room, I'm sure, has had a time in their life when the world was coming apart. If anybody's ever been terminated or lost a job, it's like overnight, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? And how in the world do you change a thought from I'm going to go broke and I can't feed my family, and I'm just giving you typical things that I get through. Okay? So how do you do it? Well, the mind takes time to train. That's one reason why meditation takes time and it takes effort. Now there is an idea in today's world from some of the newer meditation teachers that there is a shortened path using certain techniques, and we're studying them now. But the idea behind the whole thing is within us is we are a child of God, and within us is that spark of divinity. So we go right back to frequencies. Everybody familiar with frequencies? Everything is frequency. Everything that in the universe is frequency at a different rate of vibration. So we have within us like a computer that's coded to God's love. Okay? And that computer coded to God's love is always, always trying to give us the right information, the right, what do I say, life, I'll go, harmony, abundance, all the good things that are promised in the Garden of Eden. Because the Garden of Eden is just a metaphor for who we really are and what's capable within us. So in that process, the key to it is get rid of the junk so the good can come in. Shall I say that again? Get rid of the junk so the good can come in. So that's really what we're about on spiritual paths. So it's learning to change thoughts. Now, Madeline has done a lot of work in that area. She really has. Can I tell stories about you?
Do I have a choice?
For some reason, I just remembered the IRS.
Oh.
You can tell that one, she says. She's shaking her head, okay.
You got to understand that there was a period of time when I was out traveling literally the world, doing workshops. That's what I did for a while. And we had listened to a crazy nut now that was showing us how to avoid taxes. Okay? So we filed so that we did all kinds of things. And the IRS said, you're not going to do that. And they came in. Now, you got to understand, she's getting the calls because I'm out of the country. Okay? Anybody ever dealt with the IRS?
We did this, what we did though was legal.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
No,
right,
it wasn't
that's what they all
illegal.
say.
Well, don't let me think that it was illegal.
No, it was. But they decided it wasn't.
It's funny how they do that.
It's absolutely amazing. And the truth is, people were, the people with a lot of money were doing it. But anyway, so in the process, and the fines kept going up. I'm serious. It passed 7 figures, okay? No, 6 figures. And
That's a lot of figures.
well, fine, it starts out real small and they keep fining you, okay? And over 3 or 4 or 5 years, they keep doubling, okay?
Compound.
So anyways, this is a story I know you've never heard. But she is taking the calls from the IRS. Now, can you imagine, I'm in a different state and she calls me and she's crying. So, can you imagine, you talk about an issue that had to be taken care of. And she did a lot of work at this time, she really did. And she learned how to change thought. Now, she had to go through the crying, and I'm sorry, but I want people to understand. She was on the floor crying, is what I heard later, okay? Because you wouldn't believe what they threatened. So,
Yeah, they're nasty people.
really, you've been,
That way. They're nasty.
so where do I go now? So some of the techniques that she used and we learned over the years started paying off, okay? So she can talk about it today. And one of the techniques was changing our thought, okay? Now, the mind wants to keep us busy. You gotta understand that. So when something happens, we have to go into, oh my God, what's gonna happen? I'm ruined. So that pattern starts, okay? So the idea is stop it and tell the mind stop. But then you have to give the mind something else to do. One of the techniques she learned, and think about this, is she would tell her mind to go count the grains of sand in the beaches in Florida. I want you to stop and think about that. Or make it up, the number of raindrops in the last rain we had in the state of Texas. You just think of something to get it thinking, and it sounds ridiculous, but the mind starts learning to listen to you. See, we do have control over our thoughts, but we have to have systems to put it together. Another thing that she learned to do, and that we've heard from other people, is to create an appointment. In other words, something comes in, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do this, or I have a decision maker to make. I go back to when we decided to come here, when Valerie offered us the job, and the board of directors approved it, and we came in, and it was like, oh, we're gonna give up 15 years here and move to Austin? Why are we gonna do that? And it was a turmoil. So what we agreed to was we would wait 3 days and tell Spirit, please look at the decision we have to make, spend 3 days giving us all your feedback, and we want the ego mind to wait for its conversation until our appointment in 3 days. Okay? Now these are things that work. These are things that are taught out there in some of the workshops. Okay? So, could you do that?
Sure.
And all the artist tricks. Now, sooner or later you do get control, and you can say, now, I'm ready to leave that behind. I want Spirit to come in. But the problem is we're so programmed by the world around us in fear that fear takes over and shuts God energy down. Okay? So I'm trying to give you, we call this practical Christianity. Okay? Because the idea is, how can I make my life work? How do I get things in harmony? How do I become that image that's in the Bible that they talk about? Well, that's who you are. And I want to the keys is we're all the same energy. We're all God. We're all part of that divinity. So as divinity, what kind of control do we have? And somebody has lied to us and tell us that we have no control. Okay? So the idea is, oh, okay, how do we get control back from that person that lied to us? At least that's the way I look at it. Is that practical enough? Good?
Yeah.
So, I haven't looked at my notes again. So I have to go read it. So, you're very quiet. See, the idea here is that anything that happens is not done against you. There's nobody out there getting ready to hurt you, okay? And the spirit world always is for the highest and best. So, when Jesus said you have to love everything, and he also said that everything that happens for a reason, and it's good, well, it's Paul brought that in a lot. So the idea is that's true. How did that IRS thing help us? Okay? And now, number one, it helped us get together as a couple. Can you imagine the stress in a marriage? Okay? Because I'm out of town and she's handling everything. I'm just going to use another word. Anyway, you talk about a piss off. Because I wasn't there to handle the issues. So it really worked. It really, I had to get my act together and learn to support her. And she had to forgive me. You hear it? And we all have to forgive each other. That's one of the things that gets in the way of relationship, is forgiveness. So there was a good thing out of that. And we've done reasonably well at financial planning rather than winging it like we used to. Okay? So these things happen. Anybody think of a time when in your life something happened which was traumatic and it worked out for the good? Yes?
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're sitting here today and we do have a very healthy bank account. And we bought that property on a wing, and we had to sell it. And at the time, you wouldn't believe the board and the conversations that occurred. Tommy was sweating bullets because we had to go down and the county was insisting on us paying taxes. And Tommy worked night and day figuring that out. And we went down and we sat and, we still had to pay taxes, but what did it force us to do? Sell the property. What happened when we sold the property?
Got it for a lot more than we paid for.
Yeah. We got a bank full of wonderful, wonderful blessings from the Spirit. Okay? Now, have we found a new place yet? No. Is it coming? Yes. Am I disappointed that it hasn't come? Yes. Do I need to set an appointment and let God do some work? Yes. So these are all issues that occur, but everything that occurs for a reason. So what kind of church are we really going to find when it comes? Yes.
Question, if you say you have to
Here we go.
you have to set the agenda and all this, if we do it as a group, does that become more powerful?
Tenfold.
Yes.
Say it again.
Tenfold.
Yeah.
Yes,
See,
absolutely.
it's a concept. Consciousness is the idea. What do we expect as a group?
Church.
Yeah.
Yeah. We hadn't truly put a date on it. We haven't really made up our mind on a few things, but we do know we want a new spiritual.
But don't you have to have it all together and to manifest
No,
it?
Spirit.
You know.
Spirit knows.
No,
That's right.
the
Spirit.
what is our business, the how
See,
is none
see.
of our business.
Somebody's not just pulling their load then.
That's in our time frame.
Do we have to?
Yeah,
No.
Tommy, that's it. Go ahead, Randy.
All right. So, we talk about timing. We talk about a lot of things like that. And, we were all wondering how the money was coming. We were all wondering, when is this ever going to happen? We've had to, we've kept an open mind. We've done a lot of things in that era. And we kept thinking our ship is going to come in. Well, in the time that we bought that property back then, we had no idea that was the ship. We had no idea we were already on that ship. And the ship had already come in.
Yeah, but you have
We
to have
just-
something in order to buy that property.
Well, we had the finances to do that.
Right.
Right. So, anyway, when you're talking about the power of more than just one thought, if we get all of our thoughts together and synchronize in what we're doing, where we're going, and how we're going to get there, it absolutely changes. That path is laid out right in front of us. Now, time, it goes right back to timing. Is it our time to get it? We don't know yet. Maybe we already have it.
Yeah.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
We already have the finances to get something when the market settles down.
And
We don't
settling
need
down.
another penny. We
Okay.
got everything we need right now. And if we don't, we got people in the right places that know how to make it happen,
Yeah.
right? So, to me, it's there.
Sorry.
It's already there. It's all about the timing. All we gotta do is know we've got it. We got it already.
Amen. See, now this is the key to let go and let God. The human mind, the ego mind has to have reasons. It has to spend time. Time is important. In spirit, there is no time. Time is, it doesn't matter. So we always have to have everything very, and a lot of the work that we're doing right now is learn. We have to forget about learning. Stop thinking, trust spirit.
Time frame is really only in our ego minds.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's easier to say for someone who didn't do the taxes.
Well-
If you're doing that work and you're getting the calls and you're really stressed out,
Yeah,
it's
well,
harder
that's-
to get to where you are.
Well,
Steve, I agree.
hang on now. I can go into taxes too, right? And it propelled me to a new level.
Right.
Taxes did,
Right. Agreed.
right? In amongst the mix of the soup, I wasn't thinking that way, but it propelled me to another avenue. And so, to this day, those lessons learned 30 plus years ago have never happened again, and I'll never set myself in that soup again.
Yes.
Right? But it gave me a new point of view.
See, that's one reason I brought this up. Because I know a lot of people listen to me and think, oh, it's easy for you. You haven't been through it. You haven't done it. You have no idea what I'm suffering with. Immediately my mind says BS, okay? And the truth is, there is a way to come out. And when I'm in the hole, it's hard to see the light. It really is. And so the idea is that we're dealing with hope, but it's really not hope. It's just faith and trust that the spiritual principles work. Is what it is, and that's what you're saying. There isn't anything we're dealing with. It's all an illusion, and that's been the hardest lesson for me. I'm still learning that because I'm still dealing with. Dermatologist beating me up. So, no. This is David, and these are events. The question is, what do I do with the event? So that's why this is the beginning of changing thought, is looking at an event as something that I can't control, and thank you is some sort of a lesson. Now, I have no idea what the lesson is for my face and all this stuff. Maybe it's learning humility, okay?
So it brings up a hard question.
Yes.
So, we had to take that step to buy the property.
Yes.
So we had to take some action.
Yes, you have to take action, right?
Right, so how do you know when to take action and when to let go?
Anybody have an answer?
I do.
Look at that.
You know, you had the answer in what you said. Let go.
Amen. Let go.
Absolutely let go.
That's
Just
the action.
happens.
At times, have you ever,
Action, let it go.
have you been in a position where you knew that you know, this one's gonna, a door is opened up, it's fresh, it's new, and what am I gonna do with it? Right?
Yeah.
And only fear keeps us back from some of those.
Hey,
And so it's how we regulate ourselves and our own thought process and our own training.
So what you're saying is you're getting the answers all the time,
Yes.
except you're not paying attention because the fear sets in and stops it.
see that? And that's right back to the conversation. The fear is what shuts us down.
Yeah.
Has anybody here had teenagers? They don't.
Get it.
Think about it. Now, stop and think about it.
24/7.
Had you known that they should do this, and you counseled them to do this, and you had to back off and let them fail and hurt themselves, yes or no?
Yes.
The Heavenly Father's the same way. If you want to abuse yourself with fear, go ahead and do it. Now, that's harsh, but, you know, that's part of the process. That's exactly what's being talked about here. Yes?
I had a minister once we had in this church, and one of the things I remember most about one of her lessons was you look at the situation, and instead of reacting, you just go, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And don't let that fear response.
See, we're right back to the original message. I can control my thoughts, I cannot control events. So my life depends upon how I react to the events. Okay? Good discussion, by the way. By the way, Shannon, we do this all the time. I've had people tell me, well, I disagree with that.
Not ready to do it for you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I went through a difficult time, at least it started out as a difficult time in the 90s, and when my second wife and I broke up. And I had a friend who does engineering counseling for people and stuff, and he said that the package that I put together was the best he'd ever seen in 25 years of work.
Because of the event.
And then what happened was nothing. I mean, nothing. I sent out over 200 resumes, and out of this great resume thing, nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then one thing did happen. But what I had to do was to let go of my fear that this was not going to work out somewhere.
That's right. Ironically, I was thinking about Randy. We're so busy telling God what to do in our fear. And he's really working on it, or she's really working on it. We keep getting in the way.
Exactly.
Okay, now, it's over. I'm finished. I'm going to cover, what's next in our new program?
A song.
A song? Okay, I'm done.